In the Bible, God's treatment of the old prophets was a mixture of love, discipline, honor, and testing. The prophets were men chosen by God to speak his words to the people of Israel and to warn them when they went astray. God treated them as his servants, his friends, and his messengers, but being a prophet was not always an easy life. First, God showed them special favor and revelation. He spoke to them directly, sometimes through visions, dreams, or an audible voice. For example, God appeared to Abraham and called him his friend. He revealed deep secrets to men like Daniel, Jeremiah, Isaiah, and Ezekiel. God trusted them with messages that affected nations and even future generations. They were men who heard God's voice clearly when others could not. However, God also tested them greatly. Many prophets lived lonely and difficult lives. They suffered hunger, rejection, imprisonment, and mockery because they spoke the truth. Elijah was hunted by King Ahab and Queen Jezebel for declaring God's judgment. Jeremiah was thrown into a muddy pit for warning Judah about coming destruction. Isaiah was said to have been killed by his own people. These prophets were not treated kindly by the world, but God never abandoned them. Even in their pain, he strengthened them and gave them courage to continue. God also showed deep compassion and protection toward his prophets. When enemies rose against them, he defended them. For example, when King Ahaziah sent soldiers to capture Elijah, fire came down from heaven and consumed the soldiers. When Balaam tried to curse Israel, God spoke through a donkey to stop him from harming his people. In 1 Chronicles 16 verse 22, God said, "Do not touch my anointed ones, and do my prophets no harm." This shows how precious they were to him. At the same time, God disciplined his prophets when they disobeyed. For instance, Jonah tried to run away from God's command, and he ended up in the belly of a great fish until he repented. Moses, though loved by God, was not allowed to enter the promised land because he disobeyed God's instruction at Meribah. This teaches that even prophets were not above correction. God expected them to obey him completely. Lastly, God honored his prophets greatly. Their names and messages were preserved for generations. Through them, God prepared the way for Jesus Christ, who was the greatest prophet of all. Even Jesus showed respect to the old prophets and quoted their words often. Today, we still read their prophecies and see how faithfully God fulfilled every one of them. In summary, God treated the old prophets with love, trust, discipline, and honor. He gave them power to speak on his behalf, protected them from harm, corrected them when they strayed, and rewarded their faithfulness. Though their lives were full of trials, they lived close to God and were part of his great plan for saving the world.